Hello everyone. For this video, I'm doing about focus in film. So what is focus? I'm not meaning that you need to focus on your work, but focus in terms of filmmaking. So focus is the optical sharpness and clarity of a subject. It can be achieved manually or automatically. So manual focus is when the user does the settings that they want the camera to focus on, while automatic focus is basically what the camera does on its own without input, like any input from the person basically when they're setting it up. So, but people recommend using manual focus because you get to learn how to set up your own focus instead of using automatic focus because automatic focus is not always reliable in terms of where you're going to focus the subject, how you're going to focus it. And sometimes manual focus can be difficult, but it's more better because you need to. 'Cause with manual focus, all you need to do is set up your camera to manual focus. Press manual focus on. It depends on what kind of camera you do, but some cameras you could press the manual focus button and then you zoom in to the point of focus and zoom out once you found that point of focus. Then you can start focusing on that subject. But I find manual focus takes time to set up, but it's more better than automatic focus. Types of focus. So, deep focus is when everything in the frame is sharp and clear, meaning the foreground, background, and midground are all in focus given the frame balance. So, basically, it doesn't overshadow. That type of focus is basically focused on everything. Everything is in focus. There's no particular point where you can focus on because everything is so no subject is more important than the other. So that's why they use deep focus to show that, indicate that there's no importance or significance to a particular object or a particular person or something. So they do this using split dio- diopters, which is basically this lens attachment that is used to focus on multiple planes. This half cervix glass causes a split down in the middle of the frame, making one half nearsighted and the other farsighted. So, if it's used correctly, the mind bending technique can lend a sense of juxtaposition or fantasy in a film. So, in order to get it right, I've never really used one of these, I would say. But it sounds interesting to say the least because there's different types of lenses that are used for the kind of focus that you're going with. Because you have to change the lens as well. You don't stick to the same one. And this lens in particular is the one to use for deep focus, so you can focus on everything. But some people say you don't need that, but I would say some people might comment that you won't really need it because you can achieve that through the camera itself, which sometimes is not actually true. I would say this: you need something else. You need to change the lens. You can't have one lens that does everything. It doesn't work because in most cameras it doesn't. You have to change the lens. You don't because if you don't change the lens, then things you might be it might look a bit wrong. I would say, but and here that's the split lens here. This picture, then the second picture on this side. This is basically focused on him and her, even though he's quite close, she's quite far, and this person in the middle is still focusing on what's happening and who these people are, the two people especially. And this is the same in this animation down below. So it's focusing on two subjects in the background and everything around them. So you can get this. I like in deep focuses. You can get the sense of what you can see and what's happening and stuff like that. And I have a video as well just to top it off. So this is a very good example. Citizen Kane, very famous film.
With respect to the said newspapers, the said Charles Foster Kane hereby relinquishes all control thereof, and of the syndicates pertaining thereto, and any and all other newspaper, press, and publishing properties of any kind whatsoever, and agrees to abandon all claim
Which
thereto.
means we're bust. All right.
Well, out of cash.
All right, Mr. Bernstein. I've read it, Mr. Thatcher. Let me sign it, and I'll go home.
Too old to call me Mr. Thatcher, Charles.
You're too old to be called anything else. You were always too old.
In consideration thereof, Thatcher and Company agrees to pay to Charles Foster Kane as long as
My
he lives
allowance.
the sum of... continue to maintain over your newspapers a large measure of control. Measure of control? And shall seek your advice.
Yeah, so this is an example of a deep focus. Basically, all three subjects are the focus. Three people are the focus in the film. And it's this film is very famous for its camera shots and camera movements and camera direction and stuff. And apparently it's one of the greatest films of all time, or the greatest film they say is of all time. And I won't say it is the greatest film of all time because there's more film. It won't last forever because there's lots of films that could be better than this film. Personally, I've watched the film myself. It wasn't all that, to be honest, but I like the camera shots though. But it wasn't the best film I watched. But it was a really good film, but it's not the best. But I think I get the theme of the story because my teacher, we had a lecture about it, and he's saying that whoever incorporates who the director is either the author of the story or the script or the person that wrote the script. There's a film called Mank which is about the script of Citizen Kane. If you haven't watched it, it's a David Fincher film. I think David Fincher is one of my favorite directors. Because he does a lot of good, gripping stories about people and their psychiatric and their psychological behavior and stuff, and how it's reflected on others and in their surroundings and the type of things they're going to do and stuff. I think that's what I like about David Fincher and his films. So, because he does study a lot of characters and stuff. I think he's a good observer, I would say. And the character who wrote this, the man who wrote the script for Citizen Kane, is a debate between him and the Orson Welles, who's the director of this film. I think it's Herbert Mankiewicz. I can't remember his exact name. But he wrote the script for Citizen Kane while he was in a state of, I think he had problems with his alcohol addiction and stuff, and it kind of overtaken his life, and he wasn't feeling very well. He wrote it while he was in bed, and he was talking to people, and I think it was a debate between the two, the director and the writer, who really is the author behind this film. But I would say it's not the director. Maybe the director did incorporate certain things, but it doesn't mean that it's a collaborative medium. That's why the authorialism debate. I might get to do a video about that in the future because it's quite a debate among scholars, and in the past it used to be a debate among scholars and film scholars and critics and all that, and filmmakers. They talk about it in film schools and stuff. It was a debate back in the day, but I will talk about that in the future. So, shallow focus is achieved through shallow depth of field. So, I will talk about depth of field, which is related to focus, in another video, which will be coming up in a few months' time. Meaning that the subject in focus and the background is out of focus. So, the background is out of focus. So, this background is not the most important thing, it's actually the subject itself, the person or the objects that they're focusing that item on through. You normally see shallow depth of field when it comes to close ups, I would say, or mid shots, because with a wide shot, everything will be out of focus really. Or, or depth of field, deep focus is like wide shot or mid shot, or mid to wide. But I think shallow focus is mid to close up shots. So in shallow focus, the plane of focus is the space around the focal point, which is relatively small, meaning that it only focuses on a specific area, like a person or object, while the background's out of focus, as I've mentioned. That's what I try to say. And it's used to direct the eye to a particular point of focus, allowing the audience to pay attention to details of the subject. And it can be used to convey a number of emotions and stuff. So basically, having a shallow focus allows you to see the details more clearly. What it directs your eye to that point because you know where the focal point is. So with deep focus, it's not that clear, but with shallow focus, it is because you could tell what where the focus is, where they want you to focus on, and it could be used to analyze to see what the object looks like, for example, and it sees what you can see what the object is trying to. Why is it important? I think it has more significance if it's a shallow focus, because otherwise they wouldn't really use it really in terms of emotionally, physically, or mentally to the plot. I don't know. So to create a shallow depth of field is to decrease the f-stop or use a faster aperture setting by bumping up the focal length or altering the distance of the camera to the subject. That's very hard to. In reality, reading that is very difficult to execute. But if I've been able to demonstrate it, I would. You might be able to understand more clearly. I would say because it's a bit wordy as you. If I had the camera equipment, I would be able to show you how to do that physically instead of relying on this. But I might have to do another video about demonstrating these things so you know what I'm trying to say. So, camera ISO factors make the shallow focus hard to see in low lighting because in low lighting it's very difficult to see, obviously, it's dark. And high ISO can be achieved with the desired light one wants to shoot their shot, but it can constitute to having graininess in the background. So you can see that you can tell the shot looks grainy and has a look. You will know when you see it. You might think that why is it like that? It's because it's very grainy. You might have done something to the lighting or that you've altered. But it happens. You can't do anything about it. Okay, so this director does use a lot of that type of shot in his films. He done it with Dune as well, which is not on here, I don't think. In his video, I don't think. So you get the idea that basically, I've done a presentation about one of his films the other time, which is about the film Arrival, which I related with genre theory. I gave that as an example with the use of genre theory and how it balances out with the film. So how it's demonstrated through the film Arrival. So if you haven't seen Arrival, it's really good. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times, and it's a very good film. So it's one of my favorite films, I would say, that ever. And shadow focus, I don't think he's using shadow focus kind of to convey emotion, but I think he's doing it because he doesn't want to reveal too much about the person. He doesn't want to go straight into the action so quickly. I think he's doing it to create suspense. That's why he's using it as a. I think that's my opinion of why he's using that shadow focus. He's not using it just to convey emotion. He's using it to create suspense and to create tension, and he's using it to not reveal too much about the person. He doesn't want to go straight into the action too quickly. So that's why he's using the shallow focus. Rack focus is when the camera focuses on one subject to the other. So one subject starts off as the focal point while the other is out of focus before the focus can be changes or is inverted. So the first, so it goes from point A to point B. So point A is in focus. It's the first shot, the first thing you focus on. And then it switches. The camera suddenly switches its focus to point B, and it creates an idea that it's that like the attention changes of where to look changes because as the audience you now know where you're saying why is this person out of focus, then your switch and changes. You see what the person's face looks like, so it's changed from A to B really. But sometimes they preserve A, they do A, then they just leave B out of focus, and they put B, and they don't put A out of focus. Sometimes they do that. I think one director was famous for that, Tarantino. He's one of the few film directors that's famous. I think he's famous. One of his things that he's famous for as a filmmaker or auteur is this shot, this type of focus, the rack focus. Because most people say he's more famous for that in his films. He uses it in nearly every film that he does. I'm not a Tarantino fan, to be honest. People love him, but I'm not huge on him. I like his because he's more studied about than other directors and stuff. Because people like to talk about his films because they create controversy and they're good but controversial at the same time. So to achieve the shot is to practice with actors and direct them to their starting position. So it's best if you practice demonstrating the rack focus with actors. You have to practice. It's one of those shots you need to practice because to achieve. So if you have it precise, if to get precise is to by keeping the camera stationary with the aid of the focus puller. So a focus puller is a crew member whose job is to adjust the focus at certain points of the shot, while the cinematographer just focuses on operating the camera. So the focus puller is a role. It's a role on set that you can do. If you're interested in cinematography, particularly in learning the complexities behind using the camera, maybe this is the job for you. And there's other roles that you can look into. There's screen skills. I will leave, if you want to look at the screen skills website, I may leave the link for that for you to look at. So you now see that it points at A and B. I will play again. But you can see, now you can see that both, you can see where the the focus is pointing to. Because basically that's what a right focus is, shift the focus to one subject to the other. Soft focus is different from shallow focus, so it gives the framing a dreamy quality by adding a glow around the object. So soft focus creates the impression that the scene from a film might be a fantasy or dream sequence. Hence, it's not real, obviously. So dreams are not real, fantasy is not real. They both mean they're just in your head or in your mind. So to add the trippy quality experience to the film it adds the trippy quality experience to the film, and it creates this dreamy, ethereal, angel-like, heaven, dream-like quality to it. And it's often associated with Hollywood films during the 20th century. So vintage films often used soft focus to make the actors appear more feminine and less sharp. So soft focus can be done cheaply in your own home with your own camera or phone by smearing Vaseline on the lens or putting the fill-in piece of gauze over the lens. So you don't need to do much. You just put Vaseline on it. But the pros often use a diffuser for the lens or a specialized camera cinema soft focus lens. So I told you there's something to do with changing the lens. So that's what I've been telling you about. So a diffuser is basically some light. It's like sheets that you can use to make the shots appear more, the lighting appear more softer. So it's mainly used in lighting, which I'll be getting into in the next video that I'm doing. So
Alors tu vois comme tout se mêle et du cœur à tes lèvres, je deviens un casse-tête. Ton rire me crie de te lâcher avant de perdre prise et d'abandonner, car je ne t'en demandais jamais autant. Déjà que tu me traites comme un grand enfant et nous n'avons plus rien à risquer à part nos vies qu'on laisse de côté. Mais il m'aime encore et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort. Mais il m'aime encore et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort. C'en est assez de ces dédoublements, c'est plus dur à faire qu'autrement, car sans rire c'est plus facile de rêver à ce qu'on ne pourra jamais plus toucher, et on se prend la main comme des enfants. Le bonheur aux lèvres un peu naïvement, et on marche ensemble d'un pas décidé, alors que nos têtes nous crient de tout arrêter. Il m'aime encore, mais toi tu m'aimes un peu plus fort. Mais il m'aime encore, et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort. et malgré ça il m'aime encore. Et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort, mais il m'aime encore. Et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort.
And I promise you I'll never desert you again. Because after Salome, we'll make another picture and another picture. You see, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Même encore, et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort, mais il m'aime encore, et moi je t'aime un peu plus fort.
So you get the idea that each is not often used in modern day filmmaking, I would say. So I haven't really, unless it's a dream sequence. That's the only time that I've seen. But other than that, they don't really use it in modern filmmaking. Or to make the character look more innocent or childlike and stuff like that. That's why soft focus is used, I would say, in modern day filmmaking. Because it's not really used that often, so. Tilt shift filter is often used on social media, often seen on social media posts like Instagram and Snapchat, Facebook, and it has the effect to make the subject seem out of focus by making them seem like miniatures by deliberately defocusing parts of the frame. So it's basically making everything look smaller than it really is. So that's what that type of focus is. So it is achieved by controlling perspective, tilting or shifting the lens in relation to the focus. So tilt shift can be done in post or simply by simply blurring a photo or video clip, or by using a special lens for it. So this can be used in photography for architecture. So this kind of, you see in posts on social media, people like to post stuff about that. It's very like lots of people that it gets likes. Most of their pictures get likes, but when they do that, so here's the last video for. It looks beautiful. It looks very strange, but and unusual. This film, in terms of the tilt shift time lapse, it's basically kind of weird, really, that they are able to achieve this through making the lens small. I think they're just focused on specific parts of the shot and blurring. So you can use a blur filter as well to achieve that when you're making films on your phone or for social media, YouTube, so on and so forth. And it can make the subjects look like toys. They look like toys, like toy figures that are moving around. It looks weird but beautiful at the same time. That's what I like about this. Focus charts are useful tools that can help achieve the precise depth, shallow depth of field. So the chart is basically a target with multiple zones to focus on. So it's used to calibrate the lens and or testing the autofocus of the camera. So it can assure so this assures that the exact focus you want to achieve on camera, so so you can have a control over the subject such as in a studio. So the camera helps you, so it can help you indicate how you're gonna, what focus you want it to be, and how precise you want it, and you wanna, and what. So if you're filming, you can not get it wrong. So that's why they're useful. And do be warned that this might make you feel dizzy. If you have photosensitivity like epilepsy, I recommend you don't watch this part of the video. So it's basically like an optical illusion. This is what it looks like in the middle. And it just basically tells you what. That's what it looks like. I've seen it. I don't know much about it, but I've seen something like this before. It makes my eyes feel funny. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So if you like this video, please like, obviously, I said it already. Share and subscribe to get more things like this. Videos like this one, for example. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.